Members of the Dixon City Council, my name is Ulysses S. Arnn, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about a resolution myself and Rockford Tea Party Coordinator David Hale have written denouncing confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending priorities by the federal government. We are asking you to adopt this resolution because a message has to be sent to the people in power in Washington, D.C. The American people are overtaxed and the government has an out-of-control spending problem. Our national debt is 90% of gross domestic product. The $60 trillion unfunded liability for our entitlement programs dwarfs the nation's private sector net worth of $53 trillion. The $787 billion in stimulus spending has so far resulted in a national unemployment rate of 9.6%. Healthcare legislation will add some $500 billion in new taxes for us to pay. The pending legislation to regulate carbon dioxide has been estimated to add nearly $1,000 to the energy bills of the average American household. And until Congress and the President act, the Bush tax cuts are set to expire on January 1st. Should those tax cuts not be extended, every income tax bracket goes higher. 10% becomes 15, 25 becomes 28, 28 becomes 31, 33 becomes 36, and the top marginal tax rate of 35% would go to 39.6%. Our nation's businesses face one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world at 35%. There are prospects of adding a European-style value-added tax to every stage of production. There has been so much spending and so many new and higher taxes on the horizon that one would think we would be in the midst of an economic revival by now. I mean, the average recession only lasts 5 to 11 months. But alas, we are not in a recovery. Indeed, our economists are debating whether we are in a double-dip recession or have entered into a bona fide depression. We have tried higher taxes and massive amounts of government spending before in our nation's history to try and jumpstart the economy, namely the New Deal. And on May 9, 1939, FDR's Treasury Secretary, Henry Morgenthau, said, after 8 years of this administration, we have just as much unemployment as when we started and an enormous debt to boot. Now, our nation faced another bleak economic period when this city's favorite son, Ronald Reagan, came into office. The results were quite different. I will now quote from Ronald Reagan's farewell address. Common sense told us that when you put a big tax on something, the people will produce less of it. So, we cut the people's tax rates, and the people produced more than ever before. The economy bloomed like a plant that had been cut back, could now grow quicker and stronger. Our economic program brought about the longest peacetime expansion in our history. Real family income up, the poverty rate down, entrepreneurship booming, and an explosion in research and new technology. We're exporting more than ever because American industry became more competitive, and at the same time we summoned the national will to knock down protectionist walls abroad instead of erecting them at home. I will also add that under President Reagan, the nation also saw the creation of 19 million jobs, and the federal government saw its tax revenues double. You, the elected representatives of Dixon, Illinois, have a choice. Either you can sit idly by and hope for things to get better, as those of us who do work have more confiscated from us, so generations not yet born can be placed even deeper in debt, or you can rise up and say enough, with taxing us more, and say no to spending gargantuan sums of our money and having nothing to show for it except more statistics highlighting the economic problem is only getting worse. The choice is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulysses. I noticed when you were mentioning the former president, you didn't mention anything about the fact that when Bill Clinton left office, that there was a big surplus.
When Bill Clinton left office, those surpluses were the result of the Republican-led Congress that came into office in 1994.
Yeah, but they were still there, right?
Yes, they balanced budgets, they reformed welfare, they, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact history of the mid-90s very well. I was still in school. But
I just want to mention that.
Fair enough.
You know, over the weekend, we took our two granddaughters up to Rockford to the Discovery Center. And when we were getting ready to leave, I noticed there was a plaque on the wall there, and I went over to read it, and they were thanking the area state legislators for, obviously, for financial help in putting that complex courthouse that's under construction up there, a brand new building, quite a sizable building.
Yes, it is.
Paid for with federal tax dollars. Then we got on 939 from Hole, and that's paid for with federal tax dollars. Then we got on to I-88, and that's paid for with federal and state tax dollars. And as we were coming into Dixon, I looked off to the left to the industrial park that we got. It's Attractive Industries that employed several hundred people out there, and I was thinking about the fact that the sewer and the water and the road infrastructure that made all that possible was paid for by county, city, state, and federal taxes. Then we got off on Galena Avenue, paid for with by state taxes, and came down to the river and across the $18 million Galena Avenue Bridge, paid for with federal funds, then turned off on Boyd Street, City Street, which is paid for by city taxes, then pulled into McDonald's to get a couple chicken boxes for the little girls. Paid that bill in, the sales tax was probably about 80 cents, which goes towards a couple of city and state expenditures. So I just thought it was interesting. There's no real simple answer about taxes.
Yeah, you mentioned all of those roads and such that you traveled on. Those are a legitimate function of the federal government and a legitimate use of our tax dollars. Unfortunately, taking over General Motors and Chrysler is not in the Constitution. I fail to see how that is an appropriate use of our tax money. I fail to see how giving people 99 weeks of unemployment benefits encourages them to find a job. That is our point in drafting this non-binding resolution that we hope you will adopt.
Okay. All right. Anybody else got any comments or anything?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Mr. Mayor. How many other city councils have you been to in Northern Illinois, and how many have adopted the resolution?
David Hale spoke to the Rockford City Council in August. I am speaking here tonight. I will be speaking in Ashton next week, and beyond that, I am uncertain. So far, there has been no action from the Rockford City Council. I don't expect any in any time soon. They are in the midst of a large budget crisis at the moment. We allow them the chance to take care of that first, and then we'll see about going before them again.
And I'm curious why you eliminate the state of Illinois from your resolution. Right now, the state of Illinois owes us $800,000 plus. That's since April.
We left the state of Illinois out of this because eventually we hope to have this resolution brought before cities and counties and townships in all 50 states. And each state has their own problems. Specifically mentioning the states of Illinois' problems would not accomplish much, as this resolution was drafted to be rather generic.
Okay.
If I may respond to the Commissioner's point, you do realize that, as I stated, certain businesses, specifically the small businesses and the corporations in the city of Dixon, pay between 30 and 35% in taxes to the federal government. If those tax rates were lower, those businesses could expand, hiring more people, improving the city of Dixon. That is our point, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ulysses.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a non-binding resolution, which Ulysses alluded to, denouncing confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending priorities by the federal government. Does any member of the city council wish to make a motion to put this up for a vote? something I put together, a few thoughts, and I titled it, Why I Like Paying My Fair Share of Taxes. Taxes have, and I suspect, will always be a controversial topic. Back in the latter half of the 1800s, the Dixon mayor proposed laying a big brick street on Galena Avenue through the downtown. The streets at that time were dirt and unpaved. With a heavy rain, it became very, very light. Furthermore, Galena Avenue having a steep grade from River Street to 3rd Street, horse-drawn wagons and carriages were having a tough time doing business downtown. Several members of the city council won't spend any money to brick the street. Consequently, a large number of citizens weighed in on the issue, both to support and oppose it. It became the main issue in the city for 1 year, with almost everyone having an opinion about whether or not public funds should be spent on the river pavement. Finally, the mayor put the question to the city council for a vote, and with a slim majority, the motion passed, resulting in Dixon's first paved street and paid for with public money. So today, let us hear Dixon and other communities imagine life without public money. Wouldn't it be good for the pocketbook, not having to pay any real estate taxes twice a year, and having lower sales tax? Also, no water bills, sewer use charges, life would be wonderful. Or would it? All city and county services would be eliminated, including but not limited to the following: police and fire services, city, township, and county road departments, water department, wastewater treatment plant, park district, school districts, talk about the college school district. So here's how some of these services could be handled. We would have a vigilance committee that would handle law and order issues. The neighborhood brigade would be organized to fight fires. Snow plowing would be by private residents or private contractors. Property owners would drill their own wells. Every property would have its own septic system. No library services, no parks, no street lights, education by homeschooling, and industries would have to construct sewer water systems or move up. There would be hundreds of other services eliminated, and it would be a very unique community indeed without local taxes. However, after having looked at the alternative, I like paying taxes. Motion to adjourn.
There is a difference between paying no taxes and having your taxes cut. There is a difference between no government spending and having government spending cut. There is a difference between a constitutional obligation and redistributing wealth from the achievers to the Democratic Party's voting blocs. There is a difference between the results of Keynesian economics and Ronaldus Magnus. There is a difference between saying there is no simple answer to the problems we face and advocating the proven and timeless principled solutions of small limited government, non-punitive taxation, and physical restraint.